ahead and start recording the meeting? Great. Thank you. So thanks everyone for joining us today. This is a Forest Health Council meeting, abbreviated version to talk about our 30-year vision and implementation, how we want to be working with this document and process moving forward. So I'm going to go ahead and take roll, and then I'll turn it over to Allison. So Director Gibbs, or designee?
Here.
Okay, great. Director Matt McCombs?
Present, amidst others from the State Forest Service.
Yes. Nice to see you, Director McCombs. Mike Morgan? Or designee?
Bond's on for now. I'm not sure if I can make it or not with the schedule.
Okay. Nice to see you, Vaughn. Troy Heifecker, or another U.S. Forest Service designee?
Present. I'm standing in for Troy today.
Hi, Todd. Nice to see you. Nice to meet you. John Ring? Frank Falzone? Miss Samantha Albert is excused. Commissioner Abe Layden?
Good day, everybody. I'm on the road, but listening in.
Morning, Commissioner. Commissioner Jody Shattuck McNally?
Present. Good morning, everyone. Great to see you all.
Morning, Commissioner. Commissioner Veronica Medina? Don't see the commissioner on yet. Katie McGrath Novak, or proxy?
Esther Duke, proxy.
Hi, Esther. Nice to see you. Eric Toman let me know he was going to be on a little bit late, but he should be joining us. Brett Wolk? Madeline McDonald?
Present.
Hi, Madeline. Amy Moyer? Mark Morgan was also excused. Lynn Elliott?
Well, I was wondering.
Let's see. Okay. Julie Stensel?
Present.
Morning, Julie. Pat
Morning.
Dorsey?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Pat. Skylar McKinley?
Howdy.
Hi, Skylar. Senator Lisa Cutter? And Rep. Larry Sutcliffe. Okay, well, great. Let me quickly count this up. Perfect. We have reached quorum. I don't think we'll be voting on anything today, but it's still nice to get there. So thank you all for being here. And yeah, I'll pass it over to Allison to move us on through the agenda.
Thanks, Courtney, and thanks you all for coming today. As you know, sometimes when we have official business with the Forest Health Council, we like to set a meeting in between our quarterly meetings so that we can meet and do the great work that this council is doing. So today is all about the 30-year vision, and more specifically, just talking more about the goals and strategies that you all have been helped develop, as well as outside stakeholders in over the last few months. And at the last council meeting in August, we really began this conversation about sort of where we want to go or how we want to implement the strategy. And I just want to reflect on, before we get into the agenda here, I just want to really reflect on all the hard work you all have done to get into this document, think critically, and think about what this all means, not just us as the council, but to the state as a whole. And so before we dive into the agenda, our amazing facilitator, Becca Samolsky, is on today with Fire Adapted Colorado. And I just wanted to turn it over to her just for a couple minutes.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for taking this special time to think about how you want to implement the vision that's been a long time coming. The strategies and actions are coming along, and you will have a near final draft of that for adoption very soon. But it sounded like you all wanted to spend some time thinking about the implementation plan portion of this. I have some feedback from earlier on in the process from our original survey, and I'm just really looking forward to hearing from you all today to hear a little bit more about how you plan to use this. I'm going to also drop in the chat the very pretty kind of finalized version of the vision that you guys have on the DNR website as a reminder that I think that's the best tool that you all have right now and can already start pointing toward as a place that we can align folks around toward the future of Colorado's forest health. So thank you all for the opportunity to be here.
Thanks, Becca, and thanks so much for wrangling us over the past few months. It's really coming together, and I'm really excited that for where we're at. So, before we dive in, as you can see, or as an agenda was shared with you today, we're just going to do a brief overview of the 30-year vision goals and strategies. We're not going to go through it one by one, because hopefully we have all seen them at least today or before today. And the link is in the chat. Roberta or Courtney put the link in the chat, and I see there's a few of us in there already. So I invite you to go in there too. But we're not necessarily going to just go line by line today. We're going to sort of zoom out a bit to talk about where we're at and the implementation side. Our intention is that at our quarterly meeting on October 29th, so just in 2 weeks from today, that we vote on these goals and strategies and then move forward with all of this. And, with that intention, I think we're really there. But some of the discussion that's been happening in our quarterly meeting in August, and then just some thoughts that I've had too, is that what we have just created is something big and robust. And it really is a statewide approach. It exceeds the abilities of the folks in our council. And it's something that we really want everyone in the state to take hold, work with, and have it their vision as well. And so to think about the goals and the strategies a bit, you may remember at some point in this process, we were working on identifying maybe entities or agencies to take on an individual strategy or an individual goal. And I just wanted to reflect that I think that may not be, and I've gotten the sense from many of you that we may not be there yet to put those types of specifics into these strategies. And I think that's okay. I actually think that's a great way to start, knowing that we've built this ship, the vision, the goals, and the strategies, but that we don't want to necessarily put names of folks or agencies on anything until we really have the buy-in. And also that we also understand internally at the council level, how we are going to implement. So that's the idea of this time together. And we also want to make sure that this is viewed as recommendations because many of these strategies require funding, capacity support, and advocacy, right? Things outside of our control here too, as far as state agencies and other agencies go too. So the ownership for this is so dispersed across the state that what I want to make sure we don't do is we vote on something that might have potential opposition from the beginning. I don't think it will, but the point is that the buy-in is there from all stakeholders that they see this as a statewide approach. So with that, I wanted to open it up to you all on this part of our agenda to hear a little bit more from you as far as any reflections on leaving the goals and strategies sort of as is, meaning without identifying specific stakeholders or agencies, and how we all feel about that moving forward. And I think it's hard to see in the webinar format everybody at the top because I really just see a big screen below. So Courtney, I don't know what the best way is. Maybe just unmute yourself and speak or raise your hand. And please, the floor is yours. Commissioner Jody Shattuck McNally.
Thank you, Allison, and kudos to everyone, and thank you to Becca and everyone working on this. I go back to the first time we even had the picture started to come out that goes along with it, the visual, which I still think is amazing, and how that got changed and what it kind of represented. And there's been a lot of input and feedback on this. And also, I'm in a lot of meetings. We just had a presentation in the Ledge Committee from Northern Water, which I still have some concerns about, some things I'd like to ask questions about. But also, I just got out of the big Thompson Water Health Watershed project, and they're doing data-driven and got that another defense wall grant, wildfire defense grant, and they're doing planning and forest health things. And I see this big plan, and we're trying to connect with partners, and everyone's got talking about forest health and strategy, and it feels like all of a sudden we have lots of groups doing great work. But I go to all these different meetings, and it feels like everyone all of a sudden is there doing the forest health and they're working watersheds. And I see this plan as also maybe, like you said, for the whole state, but how do we make it look like there's not competing plans, or how are we all talking? Because all of a sudden the last couple of weeks, and I say this with all due respect, I'm just kind of thinking, oh, that's great. I didn't know about that. Is that going to be conflicting or collaborative efforts? And there's shrinking pots of money, and these are landscape scale endeavors. Wildfire and watersheds and disasters and all this work do not know lines or boundaries. How do we also use this document and this to help bring it all into one united effort, but also allowing local efforts to be supported and empowered and amplified? I hope my question is clear. I've been really wrestling with this, and I've been looking for the exact slide and writing. I've had an email ready to send back to all of you because I've had some concerns about one of those presentations, and I'm hoping my question was clear. Thank you.
Yeah, I think your question is clear to me, Commissioner. And I think that's what I think also about the Colorado Outdoor Strategy, right? That's an emerging statewide initiative undertaken by, CPW and heavily supported by GOCO. And, with one of the legs of that is climate resilience. And, the work of the Forest Health Council sits within, that framework, right? And so I see a lot of ties to where to other planning efforts and all of that. But I look back, Becca actually just shared something with us right before this meeting. I was able to look briefly at the first tab of sort of our vision from the beginning of some of the questions we were all asked. How do we want to see this implemented across the state? And I think there is value in having a non-prescriptive vision in some way too, meaning that we're not the strategic plan to be able to do this, but also understanding that there's a lot of coordination that really needs to continue to happen, Commissioner. And that's really where my mind goes, is now that we've got this vision, how can we amplify it? How can you all amplify it in these next years, in these next months of showcasing that this is our vision and these are our goals and strategies, and the integration piece, which in some ways this will be the next part of our agenda. Definitely goes beyond, the administration of the commission as we have it right now, right? We're really building a bigger ship right now.
May I build on that for another question? With this work, and again, I think it is a great vision, and how we like, I agree, how does this overlap? Are we also looking at this vision or these other plans with some other organizations that didn't exist when we first started? Is that looking to even change kind of the direction or focus or mission of this council? Or do you still think we're up here, and how are those legislative priorities going to come differently after this? I'm just wondering about that.
I don't see anything changing.
Thank you. Maybe I'm reading too many plans.
No, this is why we're here, Commissioner, and I very much appreciate you. Madeline.
Yeah, apologies, I'm a little under the weather, so sorry if the voice gives out. Commissioners, reflecting on your first comments, and I certainly agree. We have a lot of plans out there. I see our statewide 30-year vision being unique in how long of a time frame that we are planning for, and I don't think it needs to. I'd be interested to hear how, if you've heard, how it conflicts with some of the local plans, because I see the work that we do at so many different scales, at the lowest level of a fire protection district to a county to these regional efforts, watershed scale, and then the statewide scale. And I think having a unifying vision across the entire state is something that these local groups could point to and say, we're helping to execute this larger vision, maybe make them more competitive for those CWDG and those national grants or even statewide initiatives. But to me, the unique factors of this are the long range planning, the long range vision, this uniting factor that we have, and we want to still give discretion for the local groups to be able to tailor their management to their very specific area, but still have this kind of uniting joint vision that we have over this longer duration. You can say the local groups that I'm part of don't have a 30-year vision. We maybe have a 5 or 10-year at most. And we need to be working on the scale that forests work at in this 30-year vision. So I'd just be interested if you are hearing some conflicting messages. It would be fantastic to daylight that so we can make sure that they're not, because I really do see them as complementary. Maybe one way to compare it is the CWCB water plan, and then we have the basin roundtables as maybe the local execution of this larger vision of the statewide water plan.
I appreciate that comment. I do think you made some great points that it is unique, and I think it is, especially I think about that picture, the artwork. I mean, I go back to that. To me, that just, for me as an individual on the council, is really impactful and meaningful. And I haven't heard any specific comments. It's just I think people aren't aware of the vision yet because it hasn't come out. We're still working on it, but I've been kind of talking about, hey, watch this is coming, and I think people wondering, well, wait a minute, we're going forward. How does this fit in, and what does this look like? And I don't know if we've ever looked at a crosswalk. There's probably too many plans to even try to attempt that. We have an intern at CSU that just took all of our climate plans in the area and did a crosswalk, and all the plans are listed on this database, and people can, and there's a big thing, I'll show it, and then my mind wraps around like, how did he do that? I mean, it's going to be such a useful tool for us up here, because it kind of shows where the plans overlap or not. And so I've just I've just heard some people like, well, wait a minute, we already started working, and like I said, I've probably been looking and listening to many plans lately, and so and I'm really stressed out about some funding changes and some Other things are coming on the horizon as of tomorrow. So I just wanted to make sure exactly who's the audience, I guess. Are there multiple audience? I've always talked about who's the audience. Is this the public? Is it our partners? Is it our collaborations? Is it everyone? And also, I think it is, but also, how do we complement and empower, amplify, like you said, and how do we do that? How do we roll this out and do that so it seems like it's like you said, a vision that should be unifying and uplifting. And I'm just curious about that. Thanks for letting me think out loud. That's kind of what I'm doing. I cannot tell you the last 24 hours, the amount of, I had 4 executive sessions the last 24 hours. And so my head is full of lots of stuff. And so thank you for because this is really important to me too. And something I really am proud of that we've accomplished. And so I just wanted to think out loud because this is something, I see as really powerful, and it's just a plan that's not going to just sit on a shelf, but something that is going to be a guiding principle, maybe. Thank you for letting me talk.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if I could jump. This is Commissioner Layton in Douglas County. And I've just been listening to the comments. I agree. A huge gratitude to everybody for the thoughts, the input, the hard work. I feel for my colleague in Larimer County with all the meetings. I'm with you. But I like to begin with what is our why and begin with the end in mind. And part of, I think, the systemic challenge with this body is understanding our purpose. And when we go back to those governing documents and what we agreed to many years ago, I mean, ultimately, it's a charge to provide a recommendation to the legislature that will ultimately result in bills or a bill or two that the governor can sign. What that takes in order to create legislation is an entirely different process than creating a 30-year vision. And so I think, Commissioner Shattuck, I think you raise a really good point of is anybody paying attention to what we're doing? I think that's really the key question, right? Because at the end of the day, you got to get sponsors that care about the work that we're doing, and they run bills that can be supported and then ultimately signed by the governor. My understanding of the Ledge Committee in this group, you've worked really, really hard, and I think sadly the response from the legislature has been, shrug, we don't have any money, right? In many respects, and in other respects, I think we've had some success, but ultimately, I think we need to get a little bit more granular about action that we are desiring to take with consensus, and then running those bills so that we actually get to laws that are supported. I think the 30-year vision, that's a guiding document. But I want to be humble enough to recognize that none of us are going to be around doing this work likely in 30 years. Certainly not in the same way, not in the same age, in a certain time frame. We don't know what's going to happen 3 decades from now. And forest health is an immediate, pressing concern nationally. The state of Colorado is really a hotspot for forest health. So I appreciate this work. I think we just need to get really specific about action. And then, Jody, to your point, maybe it's really a conversation with decision makers around rolling out this vision and then including that in any sort of legislative recommendations so that it's tailored to that action. But just thinking out loud, appreciate the discussion.
Thanks, Commissioner. Esther is next.
Yeah, I really appreciate this conversation, in representing place-based collaboratives. I think Madeline's example of the Colorado Water Plan and the Basin Roundtables and the many watershed coalitions and partnerships throughout the state that work to do that local planning and implementation that feeds into moving forward on those priorities is a good parallel. And, there's always going to be some adjustment when you have a new, higher level guidance document. But I think that it's important that we pull together as a state and have, I think it really is up to each of the local actors to point out how their local plans and strategic plans and planning project plans and all of that tie into prioritizations at the state level. And I think that can help them get resources ultimately is the idea, right? And so I appreciate Becca's acknowledgement that she suggested in the chat. I think it speaks to exactly, what our intent is here. And yeah, I think, ultimately the idea is we need to have some some priorities mapped out in order to push for state level funding that then is available to these efforts throughout the state.
Thanks, Esther. Go ahead, Director McCombs.
Hey, first of all, it's just great to see all your faces. I love this meeting, right? We know who this space is, and I love when we all get together and I see all you cool people. I'm just like, God, there's such cool people in the state doing cool work around the forest. So it's a pleasure to see it because I don't always get to jump on these calls. So yesterday we had a little get together with some of one of our intimate and close partners, Denver Water, and celebrated 40 years of success together. Madeline, we missed you. I'm so sorry you were under the weather, but we took lots of pictures. And what was cool about it is on the way out, Kristen Garrison was in the rig with us and describing as we're running down the Platte River Road, all the history of collaborative governance and initiative and work that came out of the Hayman, that came out of Lower North Fork, that just all these there's such a storied history in some of those drainages. And what it reminds me in this conversation is that like this work is always been the work. It's changing. Commissioner Layden describes some of the pressures and the changes, and Commissioner Shattuck McDonald as well. But this work is really it's going to be a sustained engagement with the landscape. And what we're trying to really do, I think, is paint the picture. And I think what we've done a great job with the 30 visions. We've painted the future pretty clearly about what does it look like when it's done to some degree. When we can move from being less reactionary and more of a sort of maintenance engaged relationship with the landscape. That's going to take sustained investment, sustained commitment. So I think that's perfect that we've created a very clear vision. How does it work? I want to go to Commissioner Layden's thoughts about okay, well, what's the action now? Well, now let's name all the barriers to that future and let's start obliterating them as this powerhouse of policy formulators to bring really critical information to the legislature, to the governor, to other key entities that have resources that are willing to come along. So what are those barriers? And that's that action piece. What are the actions that we need to take? And then that theoretically, right, that should get us to a shared commitment to formulate the policy, chase down, nail down, hold on to the resources, and then build that momentum, that success begets success momentum. So I just wanted to put those thoughts in there that like, I think we're in the right place. And now how do you come up with a plan, like one plan to rule them all? I don't think that's ever going to happen in democratic governance. And so we just got to find those unique opportunities to connect those different strategies and amplify them with the overarching strategy that this 30-year vision brings into view. So I'm with Jody on this. It gets hard when you're in so many different meetings and so many different initiatives and thrusts. I think our goal should be in this council to continue to bring those people in, let them share their objectives, and to let them be part of that barrier ID. And then let's work together as much as we can to just start blasting those barriers with whatever resources we have, and start moving that chugga engine that we know is going to be necessary to respond. So just some thoughts. I'm feeling pretty positive today. I was uplifted by learning about the history and how far we've come in 40 years of partnership with Denver Water. And I just wanted to put some of those thoughts in the room. So thank you.
Thanks, Director. Pat, I saw your hand was up, but you put it down.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I like where we're at, and the way I see it is it's not a plan to replace all of the local collaborative efforts. It's not a plan that would govern or dictate to local collaboratives what they need to do. but hopefully everybody could see themselves in that vision and in the statewide overarching plan. And what I really like about it is at the end of the day, I think we're all working on our own priorities and our own watersheds and things like that. But the bottom line is we all want to see a healthier forest, and our collective impact is what's going to get Colorado forests. It's going to get the state forest action plan implemented, and it's going to get all of those things. So that's where I'm at on it. I appreciate all the work, and Becca, you've been a lot of fun to work with. I appreciate all your hard work.
Thanks, Pat. And before I turn it back over to Commissioner Shattuck McNally, I just want to reflect that I think this, Commissioner Layden, your comments about how this can also this should empower us to bring forth ideas and recommendations as part of our statute 100%. Equally, I love what Becca and Esther were talking about and what Becca put in the chat as it empowers our local and regional folks who are on the ground doing this work too. So it scales from the bottom to the top and back down and back up again, and can be dynamic that way. So I just really appreciate everyone's comments. Back to you, Commissioner.
Thank you all. And I'll be switching on to another device to listen in. So I wanted to make a comment. I do appreciate all the work Becca did. We've had a lot of conversations about this, and I echo Pat Dorsey's and Matt's, Director McComb's comments. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm feeling. I'm really excited. I'm really proud of all this. And I do think it is a great vision to where we hope to be, and I really hope we get there. I really do. I'm going to be really committed to trying to get us there. But I'm curious, along with this plan, and I don't remind me, is this in the plan? How are we going to get? Are we talking about implementation? How we get this out? What's the rollout? Is that part of this plan? How do we empower and because I have an opportunity at the end of the month that I'm doing a big town hall. And I thought, will this even be able to talk about this or share a little bit about this? I'm just wondering what's the plan once we're ready for us to, do we go out as ambassadors? Is that something that we have contemplated or is there specific steps and et cetera? Thanks.
Commissioner, we have not gotten there yet. So that truly is the next step. And the step that we're at right now is merely the acceptance step of this plan or our vision moving forward. We'll hopefully, we were going to turn actually to talk a little bit about that when we can turn it over to that right now if we want. But I wanted to leave any space on the floor because just to reflect back, we would like to approve this, as I mentioned at the beginning, in 2 weeks. And so just one other thought, because there are some call outs still in the goals and strategies. I know DNR has called out a bunch, and there really is, one more opportunity for us in the next couple weeks, but really hopefully maybe by Friday. If there is something in this document that you do not want to see in there, or is a huge watch out for you or your organization, or just that you just how you feel about where this is going, we need you to go back into the document and make a note or email us or email Becca, so that we can get this to a place where we can vote on it in 2 weeks. So please, if you have a few minutes this week, we would very much appreciate that. Courtney, I think I wanted to, if no one else has anything on this first part, we can transition to a conversation about implementation, because this has definitely been on Courtney and I's minds. I'm speaking now as a co-administrator for the council with Courtney as well. I'm representing Dan Gibbs and DNR right now. But this is an amazing thing that we have, and we do want to work with you all to publish this, to work on this, to get this out there, to implement it. And so let's just change the conversation to that if we're all okay. Moving on. Missy, we're good to move on? Great. So we've had some thoughts internally. I think you remember at the August meeting, I presented to you all and I asked if you all wanted a committee. And we got a resounding no, thank you right now for another committee. And I fully respect and honor that. But we're searching for, and we need everyone's input on how to implement this. But I wanted to pass it over to Courtney just to talk a little bit about some ideas that we've had so far.
Thanks, Allison. Hi again, everyone. Yeah, this is the almost maybe like the most exciting part of having a vision is asking how the vision comes to be reality. And I don't think, any two people are going to do it. Like Allison and I, as administrators, are not going to implement the vision. It's going to be something that has to be held by many people. And so I think that's something we want to hear from the council is how this gets implemented. We did come up with an idea for a process, perhaps. The CU Boulder Masters in the Environment students have these research teams that can work on a project for a semester or two. And we thought that it could be nice to bring on a student research team to help us create a platform or maybe a framework for the vision. And this might look like doing some research. What are the other plans in the state? How are they being implemented? Who are the actors that are owning those plans? But also perhaps building a dashboard where we can track progress on some of these actions or progress towards the vision. So this is something that we've put together a proposal for. It hasn't been accepted. We're not sure if this is happening. I think we would like your feedback if that sounds interesting to you. And I think if it does move forward, the group would also need leadership vision from the council members of how you imagine this happening. So I think leadership vision from the council members is going to be needed anyway on how this plan is moved out into the world. But we like this idea of bringing on a small team of creative thinkers to help develop a process for tracking progress towards this vision. And then also maybe they could do some research, do some interviews. We're not sure exactly what this will turn out to be, but those are some thoughts that we had.
Thanks, Courtney. Esther?
I'll just throw another similar opportunity out there in case this one doesn't come together is the Conservation Leadership Program out of Human Dimensions of Natural Resources Department at CSU. They also have cohort-based, like they have small group projects that they do, their master's level, master's in practice program. So it could be a fit for that same project.
Thanks, Esther. Commissioner Layden.
Yeah, thank you. Interesting. I think it's a clever thought to maybe have some academics engaged in some analysis of the work we're doing with other groups. I got my doctorate at CU. I think it's a wonderful institution, but I sort of go back to, do we want to talk about what we want to do or do we want to do something? So I probably would suggest from a leadership standpoint, going in the different direction would be to have an audience with the governor, to sit down with this vision, and not only the governor, but probably legislators, anyone that has decision-making authority and money, full stop. And I love, there's so many nice words and nice things we can say about plans and visions, but it really comes down to who are the decision makers and who has the resources to actually implement this vision. Otherwise, to earlier comments, these documents tend to gather dust and sit on shelves. It goes back to what is our purpose, right? We want something for Forest Health that is actionable soon. So I'm very open to the academic work. I might also suggest, from a timeline standpoint, let's connect with the governor's office, and you all are there already. Let's arrange that time to make sure that he's on board with some of the discussions we've had. And if we're serious about legislation, I mean, we're already a bit behind, right? For next year, that process started in the spring of this year. And we have lots of bills we're running right now that we've been working through this entire year. So I know the committee's working really hard on some things, but just thinking more about how do we convert vision into legislative policy going into the session in 2026. So just one thought.
That's great. Commissioner Layden, I love that. And I just want to pass it over to Courtney real quick.
Yes. Thanks, Allison, and thanks, Commissioner. I do want to mention this was brought up in the chat by Becca that the Legislative Committee is planning a capital educational breakfast day. It's going to likely take place in early January, and it'll be an opportunity to let legislators know about Forest Health. This will be a great time, as you said, to share the 30-year vision and talk about I don't think we're supposed to be advocating for specific bills, but just talk about the work that needs to be done and educate people on Forest Health. So that's one audience that I think we will have a chance to engage with in early January.
Thanks, Courtney. And to your comment, Commissioner Layden, I think, and also to Esther. Esther put something in the chat about I think we need to do both, and I couldn't agree more. And I think this council has the ability to be able to work with local stakeholders and then also bring this up to the governor. Madeline, go ahead, and then I'll look at the chat.
Yeah, I agree with Esther's comment as well about doing both. A few thoughts. First, I think it's a fantastic idea to use the MENV program. I've known a few people who worked on that program for CWCB, and they really do produce kind of fantastic products. And I think I don't know how much we're implementing if we're not tracking. And so I love the idea of a dashboard tracking what we are able to accomplish in the strategy. Two other thoughts. I'm wondering, I can't remember if in the vision we have who will be the steward of the vision, if the council is determined to be the steward of the vision, or if it's DNR. But maybe that's an addition. And then maybe the recommendation is one of our legislative recommendations next year is to fund the steward of the vision to oversee the work and to implement the work. If we're not ready to put price tag on certain items within the vision, maybe we fund somebody who can manage the vision the same way the Colorado Fire Commission has somebody to manage their type of work. So maybe that's one of our legislative recommendations for 2026.
Thanks, Madeline, and thanks for honoring the capacity challenges with taking on a new a new thing like this vision. Commissioner, as we as DNR or state agencies ourselves cannot advocate for legislation, but obviously the Forest Health Council can. And of course should be doing this work. So no, Courtney, did you want to add anything more? Oh, I see you're in the chat about the legislative breakfast. Reach back out to us, Commissioner, if you have any other thoughts about the breakfast, or if you want to be involved too. We'd love to have you and everyone there. Anyone else on implementation? We're hearing a lot of great ideas and also, some ideas for already some potential ideas for legislative recommendations, even just about this vision. Skylar, if it's okay, I might read your comments. Skylar put in the chat, there will also be a new governor and some new cabinet members in a little over a year. This vision may be the first time our state's new leaders will engage with these issues. perhaps those of us in the lobby should do some of that outreach too. Yes, great thought, Skylar. Um, Anyone else? And we'll come back to Madeline's question in a second, but I just want to know if anyone has any additional thoughts. Um, so just Madeline, to your just to your comment, with DNR as the administrator of the Forest Health Council, you've got Courtney, a portion of Courtney and I's support to be able to, support on committee meetings and quarterly meetings and things in between. And we would definitely need more resources to be able to steward this in a way. We right now are, this is a product of the Forest Health Council, right? In a lot of ways, and but obviously the council lives under DNR, so you know, we we can work together as we go through our recommendations this year on, and maybe also just talk more about what type of structure might we want to have in place to be able to, and to Commissioner Layden's points of not have this, just be put on a shelf, but be an active and engaging vision for all, and that can really continue to understand and identify the work going on the ground, but also be able to push up to the top as well. Go ahead, Becca.
I have a question or a thought pop into my head based on a lot of the feedback that was given before about different jurisdictions. This is from the survey, not necessarily today, but about different jurisdictions or different agencies that you all represent being able to kind of adopt the vision. And so Madeline's question about stewardship and who is the steward brought that up. And I'm like, okay, well, I think legislatively, like Forest Health Council has to own it. But I'm wondering if there would be any value to having kind of like a signature page or something assigned with the strategy where many organizations could say, yes, we agree to be stewards of this vision. I'm just wondering if something like that would be beneficial, thinking to the way we would adopt like a community wildfire protection plan locally, a bunch of different partners sign on to it together. And I'm wondering if that would make it like stronger and kind of show that it's not just DNR or the Forest Health Councils to do, but you also, Director McCombs, you sign on to it, or NRCS, or even our regional forests, whoever has kind of the authority to do that. Just a thought or question for you all.
That is a brilliant idea, Becca. That is stakeholder engagement and buy-in. I think that's brilliant.
Okay. I think it would be easy to add and then to just make it really easy for people to say, yeah, I buy into this. Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up, Becca. And how do others feel about adding this?
I agree. I think it's a great idea. But how would I would assume that we want to engage with that, getting folks to offer them to sign on the signature page, and so it's ready to go and it goes out. So would that be through the council inviting those folks? Or who would engage with, would it be Becca? I mean, who is the person who would be asking for folks to buy in, and would we send it to them, the plans for them to look at beforehand, or do we have just a general list of folks from the beginning that have already been involved and then put it all out and then folks can add to the page later? I'm just wondering what.
Just to clarify, I was thinking, obviously this Forest Health Council will adopt still the vision. So not at this stage in terms of the strategy, but once it's adopted to say, hey, here's a place where you can kind of sign on and say, I also buy into the vision. And then I think Forest Health Council, you all are great organizations and have great networks to start saying, hey, fill out this if you want to sign for your agency or organization.
Esther, go ahead.
Yeah, to that point, if we wanted to draw more attention to this statewide, we could have the opportunity for various groups, groups throughout the state who support it to, somehow indicate that on their webpage or have like a social media thing that they can put out that says, we support this, put together a little graphic and everything with a link to the plan and everything. I think it could be a great opportunity for just getting more eyes on it, more attention on what has been put together.
Thanks, Esther. I like that. And I think we could talk about this next step at our quarterly meeting in 2 weeks after it is adopted. And we can, talk about when we have more folks in the room too, of after we adopt, we celebrate, and then we plan for the next steps. I know, of course, a lot of this, as far as gathering signatures and doing all that, we can help with some of that internally with Courtney and I. And I'm also seeing, should we, having a signature page, to Eric's point. So having a signature page on the vision itself, is that something we're thinking is a go as well? So everyone signs from the council, or is that something that you all want to support?
I support that. I think that's great to do that, and also just to start off right out of the gates showing the diverse group, because that council is a very diverse group from a wide range of partners and sectors, and I think just that off right off the bat shows the extensive stakeholder and input for this plan. I think that's a great way to start.
Great. Well, that can be our starting point, and then we can expand beyond that. We're almost at time, it's 11:56, and I wanted to just open it up for a minute or two. If anyone else has anything they want to add before we close for the day. Really appreciate you all being here and all of your input. Matt?
Just real quick, this group, we don't get together a ton, so I just wanted to, and nobody likes surprises, but I wanted to just give folks a heads up in this council that we've been gathering and reflecting on some of our most recent data as it relates to mountain pine beetle in the Front Range. As you guys are driving I-70 and driving 285 and some of these other locations, we're seeing some outbreaks. So we're seeing like a sizable uptick in beetle activity, which is increasingly translating to a sizable uptick in public engagement with our field offices and the folks. I know that our friends in the U.S. Forest Service are seeing that as well. We do this aerial survey is in partnership with the U.S. Forest Service, the Forest Health Program, and so we'll be doing some outreach to the public here in the near term around just making people aware of what's happening and beginning the process of getting the public ready for what might manifest here in the coming years. So just wanted this group to give a little, just wanted a sneak peek that it could be very challenging based on the distribution of the infestation and the outbreak. We have a lot of potential to see some pretty dramatic changes in the landscape of the next few years. So this council's, and I say that because this council work is so critical to bringing forward the awareness and the policy needed to respond in real time. This will not be our first rodeo in Colorado as it relates to this, but this could be the first time where this infestation occurs where we have sizable amounts of infrastructure in place, well beyond where we saw impacts from the lodgepole in the most recent epidemic. So, I'm with you, so I might as well give you the information I have at my fingertips instead of letting you read it somewhere else. So just heads up that that's going to be a defining characteristic of how the public interfaces with this issue in the pretty near term. And lastly, there's a weak La Nina setting up, which suggests a relatively warm and dry winter And these are all the exact wrong contributing factors, the worst case contributing factors as it relates to increased beetle activity, especially if we have a warm spring on top of that. So the phrase I used in a little video to staff was like, buckle up. We're going to have some new stimulus in the system to help bring some focus and some energy. And I look forward to helping keep this council informed. And more than that, look forward to your feedback, your energy to helping us address these issues. And then last but not least, I just want to say thanks that participated in the Colorado Mass Timber conference that happened last week. A lot of success and a lot of momentum in that space as well. So we're going to build the new Mile High Stadium out of wood, apparently. So that's going to be amazing. That was the funnest thing that came out of the conversation. And if you've been to the Portland airport recently, it's not completely out of the question. Commissioner McNally, I'll turn it to you, but I just want to give folks a heads up that some of that information will be coming out. We'll be going public with some of that data, and we're going to continue to engage this group on that emerging challenge.
Thanks, Matt. And Commissioner, really quick, and then we'll close up.
I just wanted to say, it's really funny you said buckle up, because I just said that at the beginning of the meeting I chaired last night. Buckle up, Buttercup. Here we go, because we were all anticipating a meeting. That's really devastating and concerning news. When will we be able to see? Is there a report coming out, or
Yeah.
and some of the conditions? And when will you send that to the full council?
You bet. Yeah, we're working on that this month, and we'll have kind of a rollout of some information. We're getting the field offices ready and other folks, and we'll set aside some opportunities to brief this council as well when that's all available and ready for prime time.
Great. Thank you all. Thank you so much for your time today. It's 12 o'clock. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks at the full council meeting. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.